Mi gente, you already know who it is. It's Danny Limelight. And I need all of you to subscribe to According to Woods podcast on Facebook, YouTube, and all other platforms.
What's good, party people? This is According to Woods, and I have the honor and privilege of having a independent wrestler out of the great state of Virginia. He's the one and only Hugo Strong. Hugo, what's going on, my man?
Hugo, I'm doing good, Adam. Doing fine, man. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Pleasure to have you on. My goodness. So this is a fun one, right? Because we're talking off air in some of your lineage. We're talking about like the Boogie Woogie Man, Jimmy Valiant, one half of arguably the greatest tag team ever in the Rock and Roll Express, and Ricky Morton. So you come from good oak, good sir.
Yes, sir. I've been very blessed with this career, and if it was not for Jimmy Valiant, I wouldn't be in the wrestling business.
That's a really cool thing to say, because there's a lot of fans I could say like I wouldn't be a fan if it weren't for Jimmy Valiant, but like the fact that you get to say like I am a wrestler because of Jimmy Valiant, that is like woo, right here.
Right. Yeah. The if I may share the story with you, how I got started in the business was I was at a meet and greet in Stanton, Virginia, if you're familiar with that town or not. I was at it was at the Harley Fest, and had Jimmy Valiant, they had Ricky Morton, Robert Gibson, they had all these big names, and so I ran across Jimmy Valiant, and he talked to me for a little bit, and then I said, "Man, I would love to do this. I would love to do this someday." And he's like, "Well, brother, come down to Boogie's Wrestling Camp in Charlottesville, Virginia. We'll make your dreams come true." A month later, I was there. I was enrolled in the class, had the time of my life, and still doing it after 13 years.
I think it's absolutely brilliant. Now, I gotta ask, right? Because obviously going to a show, right? You're obviously a fan, but
Sure.
what was it about pro wrestling that kind of took a young Hugo Strong, and you're like, oh, this is what I like to do.
Well, for me, it was, I guess it would take me back when I was like 5 years old. I watched Andre the Giant and Hulk Hogan WrestleMania 3. And when I saw Hulk Hogan body slam Andre, I looked at my papa and I was like, I want to do that someday. I want to do that someday. And then I kept on realizing, you know what, I could do this someday. And and then 20 plus years later, it was just a dream come true that I found Jimmy Valiant after all these years, and he helped me and took me under his wing, and then after that we became really very close, and we still talk now and then.
Most people would want to rub shoulders with a legend like the Boogie Woogie Man, but the fact that you get to call him as a coach, a mentor, and dare I say it, a friend, that's amazing.
It is. Jimmy always told me about a year or two ago, I lost my aunt to cancer, and Jimmy called me up, and he asked, he's like, "Brother, is anything me and Angel, my wife, can we do to help you?" And I was like, "Jimmy, just keep me in your prayers, brother. I need you at this point." And my aunt and I were really close, and she meant the world to me, and it really broke my heart. But Jimmy has always been there for me, and he's definitely like family.
That's amazing. Now, obviously, and we got to shout out our good friend, Everett Richard Osmer, who introduced us. So shout out to Everett. And he says, Hugo, as
I love
everyone was saying.
Hugo.
Hugo.
Nice.
Absolutely. So, talk to us about like, your training, right? Like that had to be pretty arduous. Now, like, did you have any kind of like, oh my gosh, like this is exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. Did you have like an epiphany during this training? Because obviously it's a tough road. Running the ropes, like there's a litany of things that you have to do as a pro wrestler, training to be a pro wrestler that are just like the human body, it's not meant to do, right? So when did you feel that you got it?
It took me 6 years. It I trust me, when I started out, I was crying. I told Jimmy, I was like, I can't do it. I suck at this shit. And and then he finally pulled me over and he pats me on the shoulder and he's like, brother, just keep on going at it. Don't give up. And so I did, and like I said, 6+ years, I finally got my first match, but not as Hugo the Strong, but as I went by Rob Edwards, horrible name I went by. And he put me on shows, and then you know, I'll get into the Hugo character once we get down the road on it. He but yeah, Jimmy has had a lot of big influential stages behind me and helping me out in the business.
Now, I mean, and I just love it, right? Because you're thinking about packing it up, right? And like it's one thing for your like your parents or your family or your a significant other to tell you like, oh, don't give up, right? Those are things that they should do, right? But I mean, it's a completely different volume when it's again a literal legend of the sport like Jimmy Valiant, who's literally headline cards for 40, 50 years, something like that.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Him and I got to meet his brother before he passed away. I got to meet Johnny, and Johnny said, "Oh, Jimmy's told me a lot about you, brother. Man, you." He says you're working hard in classes. You're working hard. Um, just keep it up, and it meant the world to me. And also, Jimmy, not only him, but I've met so many great legends like Dean Malenko. I met Tracy Smothers, God rest his soul. I mean, it's been a great career, even though I've never made it big. But I've been very blessed to be able to grace presence with some great legends and former WWE superstars.
Wow, that's amazing. Now, your first match, man, like what was that? Like what were the nerves? There had to be some nerves, right? Because it's one thing to to say that you're going to do this, right? But like
Oh
actually,
yeah,
you've been training for a period of time, right? And then you
sir.
essentially like training is different from actually being in front of a live crowd who you can't really control how they you know act, feel, and whatever, right? So what was that
Oh
first
yeah.
match like?
My first match was in a 6-man tag, and I did a 6-man, and of course I had the opportunity to tag up with Bobby Eaton, part of the Midnight Express, and so oh my God, I was so bundle of nerves. I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna puke, and it just I had that expression, but when I got out there and I saw the fans getting into it. It grabs you by the throat and says it's time to go. Let's do it. So,
Now, what did you learn about yourself in that first match, right? Like, obviously, it was cool that you were protected, right? Because, 6-man tag,
oh yeah,
you could kind of, work with a couple of veterans in the area and let them show you the ropes, be that general, so to speak, right? So, I mean, but what did you learn about yourself and what you're capable of?
well, I learned a lot about myself is that I needed a lot of work. I was like, okay, bad sunset flip, bad arm drag, and of course, the first time I ever did a sunset flip, I broke my ribs, and but pain comes with the business, and so I've been like I said, I had a lot of great trainers, and they came up to me and they showed me the right way to do things, and it's so much fun. I enjoy it. So,
That's cool. So, I mean, it's one thing to perform in front of like your home promotion or your like your hometown fans, right? So, um,
just
did you did you remember the first time that you maybe ventured out of your territory, and performed for friends, and what was that like? Because obviously you're kind of homegrown, fans. They know what to expect. They've seen you grow in front of their very eyes, right? But you know, to perform in a setting where like people don't know you, right, and try to get yourself over. What was that like?
well, the way I've always learned from some of the different legends and other wrestlers is listen to the tone of the crowd. If they don't like you, be a heel. If they love you, be a babyface. And I've had to do both several times in my career. I've been a tweener pretty much. I know they don't like me to use that term, but the last time I did it, I became a tweener. One night I was a heel. People hated me. Next thing they loved me. Little kids were wanting to hug me, get pictures with. It's it, it's just a different aspect wherever you go. You just got to listen to each and every fan. If they like you, try to make them like you. If they hate you, just go with it and piss them off.
Now, and my goodness, I mean, that's a huge honor to be able to be the trainer, right? To basically be the captain of, not. I mean, it's equal parts. Like not only your coaches saying, giving you the seal of approval that, we're willing to make sure that any investment in terms of time for the next phase of our school is entrusted in your hands. That had to be crazy. That had to be absolutely crazy to do, So, like, what was the difference of like, you being an active in ring performer yourself and then going to train, people themselves?
It's different. It's very different. Basically, you have to be a trainer first before you can be your character. Um, I've had, a lot of guys said, "Oh, I want to take a Hugo Sidewalk Slam or something like that." I said, "You got to learn the basics first, because if you don't learn the basics, what's the point of being trained?" So, um, I remember, I'll never forget. I went to a training facility in West Virginia, and a friend of mine was he started up a school and had a brand new ring and everything. So this one kid was like, he came up to us and he's like, "Dude, I can't wait to get in the ring. I want to do a backflip." And I said, "Why you want to do a backflip? You haven't learned how to, walk up or do arm drags or toe holds or anything like that. The basics." He's like, "Oh, screw that. I want to do a backflip." So okay, we went on and let the kid do a backflip. Seconds later, breaks his neck. And I'm like, there goes the insurance deposit. So I felt bad for the kid, but yet I did. So, that's the way the cookie crumbles with some of the students. They think they know the business, but they don't.
That's amazing. John Parker, very kind, and we just got out of Roy Jones Jr. versus Mike Tyson kind of roundtable discussion. But he says, "Woods, you're the hardest working man in showbiz. Much respect. No, much respect to you. And go ahead and check out John Parker, who's both an MMA fighter as well as a professional wrestler, fighting December 5th, 100%." And he says, "True talk. Drill the basics over and over and over." And that's and to be great in anything, right? Like, the in terms of outliers, right? It's talked about like the 10,000 hours, right? Practicing 10,000 hours. Eddie Van
Yeah,
Halen preached of it. I mean, to be a master of any particular field, right, or vocation, you have to put in the work, right? And part of
oh yeah,
that is basically being able to master the basics. And when we go to like Ric Flair, right? Ric Flair is not the
oh yeah,
flashiest of wrestlers, right? But in terms of what made him great, right? in many respects is the fact that he was able to nail down, like he's sold like nobody's business. He can make comebacks like
Best seller
nobody's
in the
business.
world, man. Best seller. He was great. And everybody, that's another good thing I want to talk about is the fact that everybody always likes to ask me, who do you think is one of the best sellers in WWE or even AEW? And I said, well, talking about selling good maneuvers, WWE, definitely Dolph Ziggler. Dolph Ziggler is probably one of the better sellers I've ever watched. He does it perfectly. Another good one is Chris Jericho from AEW. He sells everything perfectly. And he's one of my favorite wrestlers. Um, and also, now to cut it down to promos, I don't know who you think of who cuts good promos. AEW, definitely Eddie Kingston. He is one of my favorite promo cuts. And I'm just like, I could just sit there and listen to this man cut a promo and not watch him wrestle. I mean, that's how good he is. And so I've been, it's just fun to watch that. And I like to show people when you botch a maneuver on WWE because there's a lot of damn botches. And so, but there's always cool things to look for. And yeah, the basics are definitely
Now, in terms of obviously your favorites as a kid, you mentioned Hogan and Andre, right? But were there any other like influence that you had when you were younger?
Oh yeah, another definitely one I did get to meet, and he was the late Dusty Rhodes, and my God, love that man, love Dusty, and I'll never forget him. I was like, Mr. Rhodes, can I have your autograph? He's like, oh sure. The American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, can sign this for you, and so it was really cool to see that. So it was awesome to meet him. I met some really cool legends. Jerry the King Lawler is another one. Um, I like to listen to their advices and take their advice, and then I put them together, and it helps me learn a lot more in the ring and what to do inside the ring.
No, 100%. I like to call it like standing under the influence of giants, right? And you don't accomplish too much, basically learning under people that are of the same level and sometimes even lower level, right? But in terms of people that have been able to do the thing, right? To essentially, work. I mean, to learn under the learning tree of people that have been able to draw money, right? Because that's what it is. Any facet of entertainment, whether you're in the movies and you have people put their butts right on the seat, like, and watch your film, to, pro wrestling, MMA, and what have you. It's, again, putting a butt in every 18 inches, as Jim Ross says, right? So without all being said, like, Dusty is one where he didn't, he in the promo, my bell is a little big, whatever, but I will,
Class.
come out the ditch so sweet, his promos, his raps, the way his charisma, like, I don't think you get. I mean, here we go. I'm wearing a Harley Race shirt, right? But you don't get to Harley Race without
And of course, I'm
you don't
wearing
get to
the
Dusty Rhodes
shirt
without
here.
Harley Race, right? And Harley Race is synonymous with Ric Flair, right? But I mean, Dusty really transcended what you could do, right? And everybody was like, he's just a big guy, can't move or whatever. He would go, our Broadways, in Madison Square Garden with Billy Graham, and again, for all
Oh
the
yeah.
awesome, cool things that Billy Graham can do, going on a Broadway whole hour isn't something that he was known for, but he did it with Dusty, and Dusty, for a large extent, carried him through that match.
Oh yeah, and a lot of people don't realize, he hung in there with, who was it, John Paul Jones. He hung in there with all the great legends, and people are like, "Oh, Dusty's just a big old fat guy." I'm like, "Come on, there's a lot of fat people in the WWE right now. Look at Kevin Owens, for God's sake."
Yeah.
Kevin Owens is a big dude, and I've heard the rumors that Vince likes big dudes. So, but but I like what any more than WWE or AEW. I like to watch old school wrestling, going back to the NWA days, or even at Mid Atlantic, or even AWA when Fabulous Freebirds were around. And so, I love to watch those old matches, and it gives me ideas of what I can do with my character. And I'll be like, hey, maybe I can try that as Hugo and see if I can work that into a match. So it gets your brain ticking, and I like to take notes too, by the way.
Now, was there anybody that you saw as a kid and you loved as a kid, but then when you got into the business, you didn't like so much? Was there any one of those, or even is there somebody that you didn't see the nuances when you were a kid, and then you grew to appreciate them as you grew into a worker yourself?
The one person that basically I loved him as a kid, but then when I met him, I didn't care for him as much, and that was Kevin Nash. And Kevin Nash, he had an attitude problem, and I'm just like, wow, you got a big ego there, bro. So, but I mean, you have to when you're making millions of dollars in the WWF, WWE. Um, but there's a lot of independent wrestlers. As a matter of fact, speaking about boogies, you watch AEW. I actually trained with the great one who is now in AEW, Adam Page, Adam Hangman Page. I
Wow.
remember when, yeah, I trained with him at Boogies and we graduated together. And so everybody was like, "How was that?" And I said, "He was not that good starting out, but he grew and he went with Omega, went with Ring of Honor. He went with different North Carolina promotions. He went with different other places and made a big name for himself. And I'm so proud of him for that. I hit him up every day and I tell him, dude, keep on doing what you do. You and Omega had a great match. You have great matches nowadays. When you were just Adam Page, you're just not getting nowhere. So, but I was really happy about that.
Yeah, and Yas Beats, who's a talented YouTuber herself, he says, "Hey, nice to meet you, Hugo Strong." So thank you, Yas, for joining us here. And you can check him out on his social media. But it, in terms of like I think the greatest accomplishment that you've had in pro wrestling, like what do you think that is?
Well, for me, is to is living the dream pretty much. Um, there are a lot of people, ordinary people. I always call them the ordinaries. And they have the ordinary jobs, and they say, "Oh, I wish I could have done that, but I'm too old. I can't move around." I was glad that I was able to accomplish the dream that I've always wanted to live. I'm enjoying every day of it after I go home from a hard day of my other job. I just go out, have fun, and do what I love doing. Um, Now, the one thing I love about the pro wrestling business, and my girlfriend always tells me, she's like, "What is your favorite thing about wrestling?" And I say, "It's the fans. When you meet the fans, they're there to slap hands with you, give you hugs, buy your merchandise. That's what makes it worthwhile."
Now, in terms of once you got into the business, right? What who were people that you were influenced by then? Um, because obviously, having a fresh pair of eyes, and especially somebody that has run the ropes and paid the dues and everything like that, whose work, I mean, did you like, after you became a wrestler?
Well, one person, and this leads to my gimmick. Um, if you're not familiar with him, I was a big fan of. He goes by Jody Hamilton. He went by the Mass
Yes,
Destroyer.
the assassin.
And yeah, the assassin. And Jody Hamilton, I met him one time, and oh my God, it was an incredible honor. And I told him I wear the mask because I want it to be just like your character. And he looked at me, tapped me on the shoulder, and he was like, brother, I'm about to tear up because there are a lot of people that don't want to do the Mad Superstar gimmick. So, but anyway, um, but if I may, I'll tell you how I got started with the whole Hugo thing.
Yes.
So, anyways, I worked in a federation called LTW in West Virginia. Local Town Wrestling was based in Waynesboro, Virginia. Steve Bosley, he was my promoter. At the time, I was going by a name called Robbie Love, and he made me his first West Virginia champion. So he gave me the championship, and so months passed, and he kept on talking to me, and he's like, Robbie, the Robbie Love character is not working. We need you to do something else. So he's like, do you have a mask? So I have an old red mask, similar to this, but it had black stars and it was all red. And he says, well, I'm going to put you in a tag match with a guy named The Freak, Stanley Cook, who is one of my good friends. Um, he's still an active wrestler still now. And so he comes up and he's like, well, you're going to be his henchman. You're going to be the one that takes all the big boy hits and all the bumps and everything like that. You're protecting him. I said, okay. So we talked it out. And so finally, Stan told me, he's like, well, how's this sound? Hugo the Strong. And I was like, I like it. I like it. And so then, therefore, we did some tag matches. And then finally, I decided to go on and start doing singles matches. And right now, I'm going back to tag team because tag teams are more fun for me. And it's more, well, mostly I get gassed half the time, but but I like doing tag team matches, and that's a lot of fun. You can have fun with them. Singles matches, you got to be more in tune. You got to know what the hell you're doing. So that's how Hugo the Strong got created.
And it's fun how that just a promoter changing and tweaking something in a particular performer's a wrestler's gimmick, so to speak, right? I was just watching
Right.
the Hannibal Shoot interview with I mean, in MLW he's Joseph Samael, but he was
I know Joseph.
the Almighty Sheik, former NWA and AWA champion. Not He's the only person that can say that, right? He's two
Nobody.
legacy championships he's got touring Japan, but he was saying exactly that, right? Where he got booked on a show, got paired with the tag team, and they're like, "We're gonna call you the Stock Exchange," and then it ends up doing like the market crash. Like you guys are
Oh
it was like
yeah.
a 2 or 3 day show, and they're like, "Oh, you guys are the market crash, or the market crashers," and he's like, that works, and they basically used that gimmick, for until he became the Almighty Sheik. So it's just funny how promoter switch. Sometimes there are times that they get it wrong, but the times that they get it right, it can essentially ascend the performer to the next phase of their career.
Well, yeah. Take for an example. Look at The Rock. The Rock went by Rocky Alacoa. I can't remember what that gimmick
It was
was.
Flex Cavana and then Rocky Maivia.
Black Savannah. There we go. Thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
But look at how many gimmicks he went through. He went through so many before he became The Rock, and everybody's like, "Oh, that's just his real name." I'm like, "No, it's not. It's Dwayne Johnson." And so it's so funny. There's so many differences between fans and people who thinks it's real. And everybody's like, "Oh man, look like you broke your neck, man," and I'm like, "No, I was protected." And so, but back to the names. A lot of people don't realize is that. Look at Stone Cold. He was stunning Steve Austin, and then finally Vince decided to take the stunning off and call him Stone Cold. So there's so much things you can do in wrestling for example, Adam, if you created a gimmick for yourself, just go by Adam Woods. They might call you Adam the Strongman. Just to give that oomph to it. That's what they did back in the day. I mean, like Rowdy Piper, but they called him Rowdy Piper.
Mhm.
So you can add three different names, and it can make it sound awesome, and the fans would want to come see. So that's how you have to think about that. And I like coming up for names for people who are coming up in the wrestling business, and I like, well, what about this? What about that? Just come up with some good gimmicks that people would like, and don't don't be like the gobbledygook, for God's sake. Oh God. Um, that was one of the worst gimmicks I ever watched in my life. And I was just like, who in the hell would want to be in a damn turkey suit, for God's sake? And then I heard that the Undertaker was going to be in it. I'm like,
Yeah.
you got to be kidding me! His career could have been over with in 2 years. And so, but thankfully they came up with the Undertaker gimmick and they put him with Brother Love, which was great. And so, and the rest is history. And by the way, farewell to the Undertaker, one of the greatest careers in wrestling.
Imagine if we got 30 years of the gobbledygook here. Like that.
Oh God. Oh my God.
Who made an appearance on Sunday. He did make an appearance, so just saying, that might have been
Well,
a rib on Taker. Could have been.
Tanisha's own. I mean, I mean, there's some good gimmicks and there's some bad gimmicks, and I mean, look at Hulk Hogan. Hulk Hogan, he actually was going to go by Rowan Gold, which was a terrible gimmick, and I was like, oh my God, why would they do that? And then they finally came up with the Hulk Hogan gimmick, which was created by Vince McMahon, which was kind of cool.
Yeah, yeah. Vince is a. I will always refer to Vince. Despite the last 25 years of his career or whatever, he will always be the water maneuver guy to me. It's just that's the Vince that I grew up with. So
All right. Well, now, Adam, I have a question for you now. You
sure.
didn't give me the questions. I'm going to give you one.
All right.
Who is your favorite stable in professional wrestling?
Oh gosh, so it's a toss up. We've got obviously the Hart Foundation the last incarnation of the Hart Foundation with Brian Pillman, Anvil, Bulldog, Brett and Owen as a united front, and then one that doesn't get talked about a lot, and I think it should be, but the Dangerous Alliance in WCW.
Oh my
Right?
God. Thank God somebody brought that one up. Thank God. That was one of the greatest stables. I loved it.
Yes. You got beautiful Bobby Eaton, one of the best technicians that there ever was to step in front of the squared circle. You've got Rick Rude. You've got, I think Terry Taylor no, he was in the Alexander York deal, but even still, you got Rick Rude, stunning Steve Austin, who would become Stone Cold. It's, to me, the Dangerous Alliance. Yeah. And again, Paul Heyman, right? Dangerous Alliance.
Well, now for me, I was an NWO fan. I grew up watching Hulk Hogan, Scott Hall, Kevin Nash. Even when Big Show was in there, even though Big Show was not all that enthusing to me, but another stable, and I know they were a younger stable just 10 years ago, but I was a Nexus fan. I liked the Nexus. I thought the Nexus had a great presence with Wade Barrett. They had some good wrestlers like in Justin Gabriel. But the one person and you'll probably agree with me on this one. I think Michael Tarver should have had a run. Michael Tarver was a damn beast. He was a beast. And I was like, the only thing they should have done is fix that character. I'm like, and one of my friends was like, Robbie, what the hell is his gimmick? And I said, a retard in a mask. I mean, that's all he was doing. I'm like, come on, dude. That's a terrible gimmick. I mean, you already had Ryback. You already had Heath Slater, who's made it big. You've had Daniel Bryan, who's one of the biggest and most popular champions of all time. I mean, that's what I loved about Nexus, and I was like, this is an awesome unit. And the first night they debuted, one of the greatest, hands down debuts in all of WWE.
Oh, 100%, 100%. I don't even think that the Shield or even DX, could lay
No,
claim to such a momentous, like just out of left field. Like you couldn't expect it, and it's kind of crazy because they're trying to do the same thing with Retribution right now, but it just
that is
like
a
again,
horrible gimmick. Oh, it's a
the,
horrible gimmick.
you know what it's like.
It's so horrible.
The
I'm
fact,
like, what the hell is this about? Why can you use the real names? Dominic Dijakovic, Mia Yim. But you're getting names like Slapjack? What the hell? Do they know the meaning of the names, by the way?
yeah.
I mean,
Well,
T-Bar? What the hell? Oh, God. We'll be
and
we'll be
maybe,
all
and
night,
maybe
Adam, if I kept on talking about that.
it maybe would have worked, right, if Slapjack the name wasn't already a euphemism used in wrestling, right? That was the heel move. You pulled out a slapjack. Imagine like the Harlem Heat, right? They would pull out the slapjack. I mean, all over the territory, there'd be slapjack matches as a gimmick match, right? Like that would be
Oh,
a
I
high
remember.
spot, right? And you're calling, you might as well. Is one blade? Is one gig? Like what?
Mace. Mace is the other one. I'm like, why is there a mace? I don't get that.
Yeah, and if there's all supposed to be bad hombres, right? Theoretically speaking,
Yeah,
right? They
no,
exist in the same kind of WWE universe as Raw Underground. If you really wanted to make a name for yourself, go and fight legit people in the Raw Underground. But no, they went to the ropes and
well,
they cut down the ropes. But Raw
I tell you
Underground
what,
had ropes.
I tell you a person I really hope they're gonna debut him soon. I like Diacody, the big dude that they were battling in
Oh yes,
Raw
what's
Underground.
his name? Got it. Why am I blanking on his name? But Dio Madden, right?
Yeah, but yeah, he faced Dio Man one time, and I was like, damn, this dude's gonna be a champion someday. He's a big dude. He can be explosive. Um, and also the bouncer guy that's now with AJ Styles, I think he should be a wrestler
Oh
because
yeah, yeah,
he's
yeah, yeah. He's like literally the largest signed developmental talent that the WWE has ever signed, which is quite a distinction in itself. And imagine like he's learning under AJ Styles, arguably the most decorated performer like of all time, right? Of all time. Uh IWGP, TNA, and WWE and Universal Champion himself, right? And
yeah,
essentially that is somebody who's basically being in this big guy's ear and teaching him the ropes. So
which
what that
is
guy's
cool.
going to be like in 3 years? Oh my gosh, I can't wait.
Um, okay, I have a story for this now. You were talking about, taking under the wing.
Yes.
Um, one person, when I first started out, well, I'll make a long story short, by the way. Um, back in 2010, I broke my ankle. I took the pedigree wrong from a wrestler, and I twisted my ankle wrong, and you could hear it snap. And so I had to have major surgery, and so anyways, all the guys were telling me, "Are you coming back? When are you going to come back? When are you going to come back?" And so finally I got the nerve to come back, and so, anyways, I decided to become a manager. I went by Robbie Love, and that's how I got my start with that gimmick. And anyways, I managed Eugene from WWE, and I was like, "This is so awesome!" And Eugene, Nick Dinsmore, one of the nicest guys, and he's a great teacher. He taught me a lot in the back room. He took me under his wing, and he's like, "Okay, do this right over here. Go out there, listen to me. I guide you. I'm not going to guide you wrong, brother. That's all I'm going to tell you." So I've been very lucky. Yeah, Nick Dinsmore was really cool to work with, and I got to be in a tag match with him, which was kind of ironic. Um, Now, my character is kind of like Eugene. I'm pretty much a not all there strong man where I'm holding my head and I start running out of the ring acting all crazy. And also I've added a new gimmick prop where I'm coming out with a dog leash now. I put it around my neck, and then everybody just jerks me around with the dog leash. So that's a way to create a character. So you try to add different things, and you got to make it work. So, but again, back to Nick Dinsmore, really great guy and great teacher.
That is somebody. Oh gosh, that they dropped the ball on so bad, so bad. How
Such a
talented
good
he
wrestler,
was.
man. Such a good
Yeah,
wrestler.
dude. I mean, I remember. I mean, uh, watching. Well, not watching, but reading about him in Pro Wrestling Illustrated when I was in high school. Right, him and Doug and Danny Basham. Right, like
Oh yeah.
those OVW guys. And then obviously what would come of like John Cena and Shelton Benjamin, Randy Orton, Batista. But like Dinsmore again, most of the guys that I talked about were like
Overlooked.
world champions and everything like that. Dinsmore, if you ask John Cena, if you ask Dave Bautista, if you ask Shelton Benjamin, and if you ask Brock Lesnar, who was like probably the best like pure person that they went up against, in OVW, they would all tell you it would be Nick Dinsmore.
Oh yeah, no doubt. He was, like I said, he guided me in my first show in my hometown, and he just told me what to do. I listened to him. We put on a perfect show, and the fans went happy. And I was just the first time when I was with him, I was like, wait a minute, I'm in here with Eugene. What the hell am I doing here? And so, but but really good dude, really nice guy. He'll work with you, and he'll structure a match for you just like that.
It's so brilliant, so brilliant. Now, in terms of brilliance, right? Uh, Yasbeat says I like his mask color, right? And I gotta ask, right? In terms of you know the creation of Hugo, right, and the development of the mask, because as a masked wrestler, much like the Assassins and Jody Hamilton, which you mentioned before, and we saw it, obviously in Lucha Libre, in terms of the luchadors that have donned the mask, and it's literally their life, right? So, you talked about the first incarnation of your mask, right? And then, but how did you arrive to that design, and what does it mean?
Well, basically, this basically represents. Well, I always tell people I look like a circus freak. Um, I want to be both. Like I said, I've been going as a tweener for so many years in my career, and basically, I wanted a color. Red will make me more look like a baby face. So I thought with the red and the black like this, it will make me more of a heel and a baby face. So I can go in and out however the hell I want to go out with. Um, but the mask was created by Corey Phillips, who makes my gear, and he fantastic guy. He'll work with you, and his prices are absolutely awesome. If there's any wrestlers getting ready to go into the business, hit him up. He's in War, West Virginia. He's a very nice guy, good personal friend of mine. He'll take good care of you.
Yeah, it almost reminds me of the Mass Superstar. Obviously, the Mass Superstar in Georgia ended up, it was played by none other than Bill Eadie. And if you don't know who that is,
Another
folks, I
another
mean,
great another great
from
guy I met
Demolition.
down the road. I met
Yeah,
Billy Eady, really nice guy, and and he saw me with the mask on at a show in Tennessee, and he looked at me and he's like, "Dude, that reminds me of when I started." And I was like, "Thank you," and uh, and of course I got emotional just meeting all these guys. I've been very blessed, man. Um, and a lot of people always ask me. They said, "Well, do you have a favorite match when if you had to pick a match out of your career that if you were Hugo or Robbie Love, which one would you pick?" And I said probably my first match against somebody big, and that was Diamond Dallas Page. And DDP was the nicest guy. He worked me in a match, and the first thing I thought to myself is, "Oh man, I'm gonna get diamond cut by DDP." And then in a split second, I'm like, "Oh shit, I'm gonna get diamond cut by Diamond on stage." And so I was just like, I'm like, okay, this is a dream come true, but am I going to get seriously hurt? So, but yeah, it's awesome. You know, facing legendary wrestlers, it's awesome. You know, if they trust you enough, they'll give you a good match. They'll put you over. You just have to listen to them. And I tell people, and for other wrestlers at home, if you're going to be in this business, you got to stick with it, because this is no game. This is no joke. This is a business. And I tell people, if you're going to be a part of this business, you got to be dedicated. I mean, dedication, and I mean, you're going to be taking injuries after injuries if you're willing to take the risk. So it's something to hear from me, and you know, I want everybody at home to know it's not no game.
That's amazing. Now, in terms of, I mean, that's a hell of a vote of confidence, right? But
Yeah.
talk about things that we're confident about. Colin Crandall of the MMA Power Hour, which they'll be going live on Fight TV with the MMA Power Hour's weekly show. So you definitely want to check that out, folks. But he says, who did you like better of the old-time masked wrestlers, Mil Máscaras or Mr. Wrestling 2?
I'll be honest with you, Mr. Wrestling 2. I think he had a better presence. No offense to Madagascar, but you know, I like Mr. Wrestling 2 because he had a better presence. He had better action. He had everything going for him. And so, you know, a lot of people don't realize is that Mr. Wrestling and today's generation, they don't know what the hell they're talking about. Oh, I know Mr. Wrestling. I said, who the hell is he? And they'll be like, I said, okay, you don't know jack shit. Now get away from me. So, but no, you know, it, like I said, I've, for me now as mass superstars, Jody Hamilton will always be my number one favorite. I always loved him, and he was a big inspiration for me to don the mask.
I love it. I love it. And Steven Tatum says you're a true luchador, you know, and have a big tribute of the. You're the next generation of the folks before you. So thank you. And he's actually clicking on on two platforms, both Facebook and YouTube. So thank you, Steven Tatum, a wonderful, warm high school friend of mine. So thank you, good sir. So in terms of like your in terms of like a memory in your career thus far, like do you have an amazing or memorable story, you know, that you've had during your wrestling career that you probably wouldn't have had if not for wrestling?
Well, the one thing I remember, Jimmy Valiant, um, he gave me an opportunity when I was starting out, and he's like, well, Robbie, you've been one of our most dedicated students. He talked to me in private, and he's like, well, I want to talk to you about something. Would you be okay coming down to Lynchburg, Virginia? I forgot the date. Sorry about that. But so and so date, and he told me, he's like, well, you're gonna be tagging with me and Ivan Koloff, and I'm like, dude, what? And he's like, yeah, you're gonna be teaming with me and Ivan Koloff. You're gonna be going up against Chief Navajo and what was the other one? I have to think about it. Oh yes, Tatanka and Chief Blackheart, which was down in West Virginia. So that was kind of cool. But the funny part was I didn't have a character to blend in with these guys, and I'm like, oh my god, this is like a dream come true.
Yes.
But Jimmy said we want to see how you work with the legendary guys. Tatanka chopped my ass off so bad I thought I had blisters all over my chest. Um, and I was like, oh god, it sounds like Wahoo McDaniel when he chopped back in the day. And God. But and by the way, for people at home, chops fucking hurt. Okay,
Yes. Yeah.
they,
Beat
they
Brad.
they fucking hurt. They're like, oh, you're just patting them. I'm like, bullshit. Yeah, but I don't mean to use coarse language on this program, brother. But the one thing was is that working with those guys, Tatanka, he comes up to me and he's like, "How's the chops?" I said, "Hurt like hell." And he's like, "That's perfect. They gotta hurt like hell, brother. They gotta hurt like hell." So,
You took
but
it like a
it
champ.
was awesome.
You took it like a champ, though.
Oh
Like,
god. Oh, let me tell you about chopping. Okay, first time I ever took chops was from a guy named Scotty Blaze, and another one from Shorty Smalls, who I also trained with. And what they did is they duct taped my arms to the ropes, and they made sure I did not leave when I got chopped. And they were like, "Okay, boom, boom," and they slapped me so freaking hard, I was bleeding, bro. And I was like, and I said, now I've been chopped by some good guys that have been in the business longer, but the one person I want to be chopped by is the Nature Boy Ric Flair. I heard his chops are
so, I mean, if you're gonna get chopped, I mean, might as well. Might as well. Yeah. And Colin Crandall saying, thanks, Adam and Hugo, obviously. So thank you, good sir. And Stephen Tatum wants to know, is chops the best move to get familiar with as a beginner, in wrestling? Prob- Probably not.
actually no, no. What you need to work on if you get into the wrestling business, work on your punches. The punches is what sells. The punches is what tells the story in the match. And you got to be able. I mean, you can go from the Hulk Hogan, God Lord, it looks terrible punches to the ones that Bret Hart used to do. And it tells that story, and the people need to see it's real. Chops are just an effect that gives a good sound, but it doesn't do anything. It doesn't really affect. But I mean, every wrestler, Jimmy Valiant would tell you the same thing. Even guys like Chief Navajo, they said you got to go to do the pelvic thrust, you know, try doing clotheslines. Those are good maneuvers to go at. But the punches are the big thing because you want to look like you're in a real fight. Chopping just doesn't really sell it out really well for you.
Yeah. Oof. I remember. I think it might have been Ric Flair's book where he talked about Ricky Steamboat, and Ricky Steamboat would literally watch boxing, right, to not
He
only learn
did.
how to punch, but also learn how to sell and register those
Oh
punches.
yeah.
And that's why, I mean, like I could see it in my head, like oh, like I mean, there's something magical about Ricky Steamboat, and again, his entire career was always a baby face. So like, it's yeah, man. There's something to him, and again, for all of the like, flip flop and fly stuff, and that's if you like that sort of thing, that's your sort of thing. But you know, there's so much money. Like Dean Ambrose now as John Moxley. He's way more believable, and he doesn't do any of that
Oh, way
flip flop
better.
and fly stuff. Not at all.
No, I mean, I'll tell you. I don't know if you watch Impact Wrestling or not. I'll tell you another person for an example is what was it oh my god, I just now have EC3.
Okay.
EC3 is another one. He's really improved, and now he used to do the flips and stuff. Now he just does punches, jabs, and he makes it work. I mean, there are a lot of guys that go back to the old school stuff, and basically, I know there are going to be a lot of people that hate me for this. Old school wrestling is better than new school.
I agree. I absolutely agree. My goodness. Man, that's a good one. Which I mean, I gotta ask you in terms of like, if you could have a dream match with anyone, past or present,
Okay.
who would that be? Not only who would that be, but where would that be? Do you have a venue in mind? Are we talking Tokyo Dome? Are we talking about Mid South Coliseum? Are we talking Madison Square Garden? Who would it be, and where would it be?
Well, one of my favorite wrestlers, and I've always wanted to face him, it would be the late and great Owen Hart. It would be an honor to wrestle Owen Hart because that man had more charisma. No offense to the Hart family, but he had more charisma. He had more heart. The fans loved Owen. And when he died at Over the Edge, it broke my heart.
Yeah.
But back to the question, I would love to face Owen Hart. Because and where would it like to be? I would like to have it over in Canada, to be honest with you. Anywhere in Canada where they would have it. I mean, I would love to face them just to say, my God, the hell, I'd like to see him in the blue blazer costume. That was one of his best gimmicks. And it was just.
I mean, you're bringing tears to my eyes because I mean, it was Bret Hart versus Randy Savage in '87 on Saturday Night's Main Event. That I mean, I wouldn't be covering combat sports or even liking combat sports, wrestling or otherwise, if not for that match, right? So it made it easier to, Macho Man and Bret Hart in a ring, right? So when Tommy the Hitman Hearns or Julio Cesar Chavez Sr. or Mike Tyson got in a ring, I was like, oh, they're doing kind of the same thing that Bret Hart and Randy Savage did, right? So in terms of like, this shows you my influence on, the influence that Owen had on me. My firstborn child, his name is Owen James.
Oh, that's awesome. I love it.
Just saying.
And congratulations, by the way, brother. That's awesome.
Thank you, bro. Thank you. I mean, he's a strapping kid himself now. He's about all of 13, and I mean, I stand 5'9". He looks like he's probably gonna. Hopefully, he won't be George Goulas, right? If I ran a promotion of, hopefully he won't be George Goulas, right? But that's another story for another day, right? And
now I have another one for you too.
Oh, please do. Come on, come with it.
Another wrestler I would like to face. I love to face Kurt Angle. Kurt Angle will be a good one. Hell, maybe I can. That would be awesome.
Yes, yes.
Dude, how can you not acknowledge a guy like Kurt Angle, who's had some of the greatest memories, even as a heel in the WWE? Who can ever forget him when the Alliance started? He turned on The Rock.
Yes, he did. Never forget. Never forget.
I will never forget that. And I'm like, that's brilliant. That's a brilliant move. And a lot of people are like, well, that's kind of stupid. I'm like, no, that's brilliant story writing. Better than Seth Rollins looking like a stupid pirate coming out now. His gimmick is so horrible. And I'm like, how are they making him like that? Seth freaking Rollins was his best gimmick he ever did.
Well, see, I mean, that's assuming that he had a gimmick. Like, I didn't get his. It was just words, right? Beast Slayer, King Slayer. They're just words. They didn't mean anything. At least this time, for the first time, and it's funny, right? Because I always point back. WWE did this thing on YouTube where it was like before they were superstars, right? And I don't even know if it's on the network or not, but like, with Bayley, right? She was like, oh, like I think they did Bayley, they did damn, I want to call her Ruby Riot, right? They were telling about like stories of their independent experience and like how everything before they got signed, right? When they get to Seth Rollins, let me tell you, Hugo, right?
Yeah.
What your first character was Blix? What was Blix? I don't know. I just picked a name. It was from a video game. Oh, what was blah 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 the Destroyer? He had a Destroyer, whatever. It was like, bro, I don't know. I just picked a name, right? What about Tyler Black, right? The name and the moniker when you were your first
Ring of Honor
and got you to the WWE. Oh, I don't know. So the fact that he's on top, I'm not saying that he's not a talented performer. He absolutely is. It's just he doesn't have a gimmick. Tell me who Seth Rollins is. I still don't know. Not until this last time. So at least he
Yeah,
has a gimmick. At least he has a gimmick. He didn't have a gimmick before, and I'm talking his entire career, including the WWE. I mean, prior to the WWE.
right. I'll tell you another one, and I know a lot of people are going to applaud me on this one. You know who I think's got the best gimmick in WWE right now? The Fiend Bray Wyatt. I think the Fiend is the best gimmick in the WWE as we speak. It is so good. And I'm just like, well, when I first saw the Firefly Funhouse, I'm like, what the hell am I watching? And I was like, oh, it's Bray Wyatt. Okay, cool. And then when they built it up, which they should have done in the first place, built it up when he was creating the Fiend, genius. Genius. I loved it. I mean, think about it. Why? Who would want to book Husky Harris, who looks like a pig? I mean, I think Bray Wyatt's happy that he came up with that gimmick. So,
Well, I mean, and it's funny because I was lucky enough to attend a show in Bakersfield. Like I think it was a SmackDown taping, and early in the taping they taped NXT. So like I saw, Husky Harris. I always knew he was going to be a star. I knew that wasn't going to be the gimmick for him. The tank with a Porsche engine, like whatever. But I mean, I just knew the pedigree. I mean, you're the grandson of Black Jack Mulligan. Your uncle is Barry Windham, arguably one of the greatest performers ever,
oh yeah,
right? And then your dad is
yeah,
Mike Rotunda, right? Like
yeah,
that's like, oh my goodness, this whatever. And theoretically speaking, right? If the streak
yeah.
were to end, right, the Undertaker's vaunted undefeated streak at WrestleMania, Brock didn't need it. It should have been done 2 years before, or maybe a year before with Bray in San Francisco. That's it. Like that's the move. Like that could have built Bray to an umpteenth degree, but even still, Bray figured out a way, right? And that's shout out
Oh, yeah.
to Wyndham Rotunda, because he figured out a way, even across all, like he revamped the character. And again, look at the Undertaker, right? From that 1800s, Western dead man, right? And then Mabel sits on his face and he becomes a Phantom of the Taker. Then, the iterations of Taker versus Taker. And then, Attitude Era comes in and he becomes like the Dark Lord Taker, right? And then, the what is it? The Ruthless Aggression Era. He becomes obviously the American Badass, right? So, and then, come back into WrestleMania 20 and merging everything all in one, right? So the constant evolution of character, right? And look at what Bray has done. That's why, in my mind, it should have went to Bray, not to Brock. Brock didn't need it.
No. Well, I mean, let me ask you this, and I'll tell you, a lot of people agree with me. Who in WWE besides The Rock and Stone Cold gets all fired up for their entrance? And I say it, Bray Wyatt, because they get the fireflies going with their phone.
Yes.
And my God, I remember during Survivor Series 2 years ago, they were chanting "Yowie, wowie,"
Yes.
And I was just like, yeah, that's really cool. I mean, that's what they need. But
two different incarnations of the character. Two different incarnations of the character, and got the same pop, the same response. Thousands of people, right? Fireflies or Wowie Wowie. If that doesn't tell you that this is a license to print money, I don't know what we're doing. I don't know what we're doing.
Because I think Vince made the right call, and he did the right thing by giving Bray Wyatt that opportunity to become a big star. And that's what he needed to do with that. And but man, it's just man, I love talking wrestling with you, man. I don't get to do this in my everyday job, but this is really cool. I enjoy talking with you on this.
Yeah. Okay. So and it's fun to me because like I mean theoretically speaking, like I actually thought that Sister Abigail should have either been Rosemary in Impact, Sue Young, or now Abaddon, right? They should have signed Abaddon, what have you. But I mean, the Alexa Bliss thing, I actually didn't see coming, right? And I'm
I love it.
brilliantly
I think it's great.
surprised. I'm surprised. I'm brilliantly surprised. Like that, it fits. It fits. It so fits.
No, it's so funny. One of my friends was saying, "You actually like Alexa Bliss?" I said, "How can you not? She's so adorable. She she comes out there thinking she's a tough girl and she's really tiny. And how can you not like Alexa Bliss? She's really
Yeah,
cute and well, Buddy Murphy really blew it over with her, but anyway, um,
yeah, 100%, 100%. Now, Stephen Tatum is going. Oh, in terms of you know what Hugo watches, do you watch any female wrestling matches and any prospects that you like?
prospects that I like. I tell you, well, in WWE, probably the best change to make to her character, probably Bailey. I love Bailey. I think she's got a good character, and people are taking her more seriously than when she had those little thingies that came out through the entrance and all that. She's now a real wrestler. She's coming out there and just going to be a badass, and I love that about her.
Yeah,
Now in AEW, I have to say, and it's tough for me. I like Nyla Rose. I just something about her that really speaks to me about her. She's got the talent, she's got the charisma to take the company and just make it hers. And she just needs to grab that ball and just run with it. I do like Thunder Rosa. I mean, I like various women wrestlers. Um, but now in the old school, Medusa, that was my girl right there.
yeah, I mean, that's good. I actually think that Impact right now has arguably the best women's division in wrestling,
They
right?
do.
With you got Su
Absolutely.
Young, you've got obviously I forgot what
Gail
she's
Kim's in there
calling.
too.
What was it, Emma? Tanel
Emma's
Dashwood.
in it.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, Tanel Dashwood. I mean, there's a litany of female talent that Deanna Perrazzo, she's tearing it up. Like it's just, yeah. Impact. Funny enough, like if things that they actually have that are better than both the AEW and WWE, it's their women's division. And before it was their
Oh,
X
yeah.
division, now it's the women's division.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like another person everybody's familiar with. I did it now. I did an intergender tag match with her in Rocky Mount, Virginia.
Yeah,
The great one, Mickey James. I tagged with Mickey James, which was cool. And everybody said, "How is she in real life?" And I said, "Oh my God, she's a sweetheart." She came up to me, gave me a big old hug, and she said, "Okay, just listen to me." She was another instructor. She worked with me like all the other legends did. And Mickey and Lita too. I met Lita so many times. Absolute a doll baby. Love talking to her. She liked to sit down and talk to you about her career, what she's done, how she beat guys up, which was cool. It's really awesome. I mean, you get to meet a lot of female wrestlers. And one of my friends was being stupid asking this. He was like, "Do you ever get a boner just standing next to these girls?" And I'm like, "Really, really?" I'm like, I'm like, no. This is a business. I have to
yeah,
take it seriously.
yeah.
And you know, in even an independent wrestler, Adam, you can be suspended without pay.
Oh yeah, I would be suspended from the house. My wife might not like that at all. So I'm just saying, yeah. so,
I was going to
so
say, brother.
Yeah, no, good brother. It's been awesome to have you on. But dude, there's been a litany of people that have helped Hugo Strong get to where he is today, working with some of the best talent that, I mean, literally on all eras of wrestling has produced. Right? We're talking about
Yeah,
Jimmy Boogie Woogie Man Valiant. We're talking about Mickey James. Right? You've worked with
yeah.
legends, but there have been people that have helped you along the way. So I want you to go ahead and shout them out, good sir.
I just want to thank everybody in the business. I want to thank Mickey James. I want to thank Jimmy Valiant, Ricky Morton, one of my favorite people in Tennessee. You know, I want to thank these guys. If it was not for them, I wouldn't have this, without crying, I wouldn't have this blessed career because I wouldn't be in the position that I am without these guys. Because with their guidance, and their guidance, and also they were strict on me, but they wanted me to be the best. And without them, I wouldn't be where I am today. I may have been in the backyards, but I won't go into backyard wrestling. That's just total bullshit.
Well, I love it. I love it. And Stephen Tatum wants to know where he can find you on social media. So here we go. Where can they find Hugo Strong on social media, my
Right
man?
now, hit me up on just hit me up at Robbie Rice at on Facebook. I'm not on Twitter. I'm not on Snapchat. I don't believe in that shit. That's just me. But I would love, if y'all want to hit me up sometime, talk wrestling, I would love to inbox you. We can talk more. So just hit me up, Robbie Edward Rice, and you know, and it's just you won't see me in the mask, but you'll see me as my actual person. So, but love to talk to everybody out there. Whoever wants to talk wrestling, I love talking about it. And like I said, it's a great life. So.
I love it. Absolutely love it. But Hugo, thank you so much for joining us here at According to Woods. And Stephen Tatum says, also don't forget to click like, share, and subscribe to According to Woods on all platforms. Thank you, good sir. And I warmly encourage you to go ahead and like, share, and subscribe to this very link. Thank you, John Parker, who says another great episode. Much respect, Oos. Oos to you, good sir. And Robbie, you're subscribed to the According to Woods podcast, right?
Yes, I am.
Dang right. And we thank you for your subscription. I am as well. But if you don't believe Hugo Strong or me, according to Woods, here's Zeta Zang.
Hey, this is Zeta Zhang.